Welcome to Grand Trunk Warehouse, and tonight we are live. We are doing episode 2 in our Mott the Hoople series. Tonight we're looking at 1971's Wildlife, and also from that year we're looking at Brain Capers. So we want to hear from you in the chat. Let's do it.
Grant is changing the world one track at a time on Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Hey everybody, we are live, and it's a Thursday. That's good. Parrish, what day is it for you, though? It's almost Friday.
It is Friday.
It is Friday for the Parrish.
Yeah.
So we've seen the Parrish a lot this week, and he's never going to get any sleep because I keep the damn Parrish busy. But anyway, he's here. And tonight we also have Nick Esquire. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Grant. How are you doing? Hi, Parrish.
Good. So Jamie was supposed to be on this, but he's having a family situation. He couldn't be here, but we have two gentlemen here that can rally, and we can all discuss Mott the Hoople. So everybody's good, ready to talk. We are going to want to hear from everybody in the comment section. Oh, look at that. We have the Jukebox Cowboy here. Nice to see you. So hopefully things will start getting going here. Anyway, we're looking at, this is episode 2 in the series for Mott the Hoople, and we're looking at 2 records today, both from 1971. We're looking at Wildlife. We haven't really dived into this, but this record's a little bit of a departure. It's a little bit more folky, country sounding record. Reached number 44 in the UK. Mick Ralphs is dominating the songwriting here, and we also are looking at another album from 71, Brain Capers, 4th album. It's raw, it's heavy. This is often seen as the precursor to punk. I don't know. We'll talk about that. This did not chart in the United States. Heck, why don't I just throw that up? See, this is the album that I wasn't ever really that familiar with because it really didn't do very much. And we were talking a little bit before the Parrish said, the album covers aren't all that hot. It's not all that hot. No wonder it probably didn't sell. But like I said, this didn't chart in the UK. It didn't chart in the States. There you go. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about both of these records. And I think I'm going to start out with the Parrish. Parrish, I guess we could talk. Well, let's just do Wildlife first and get your thoughts on it. And eventually, and your rating out of 10. And then if we get enough people in the chat tonight, we can go over there and see if they can rate it if they're familiar with it. So, all right, Parrish, let's hear it. What's your thoughts on Wildlife?
Yeah, okay. So if you think Mott the Hoople, you generally think a pretty bombastic British rock band, punk, maybe heavy in parts, glam rock, definitely. And with this album, of course, you get absolutely none of that. This is not that type of band. This band on Wildlife, I would say if it's closest to anything, it's closest to the Eagles. And I'm not even sure the Eagles existed in 71. Somebody might correct me.
I think that's 72.
Yeah, I think so. So I think this is a precursor to the Eagles, and there's certainly a few songs on this that I think maybe that Don Henley and the boys were closet Mott the Hoople fans. That's what I think. I like this album, despite the fact it's different. I said when we did the last show, I wasn't a huge fan of the first 2 albums. I think it has its moments, but they both sound too much like Bob Dylan on the vocals, which kind of puts me off that. Well, I'm pleased to say they tend to lose that on this album. And if you've got any of that kind of Dylan-esque sort of whiny vocals, I think they sound a bit more like Tom Petty than they do Bob Dylan. And from that point of view, I like a bit of Tom Petty, so that's no bad thing in my mind. It kicks off with Whiskey Woman, which I think is a great track, very up-tempo. I said they sound quite Eagles-like. I also think they're quite Southern rock, actually, on this album. And certainly the first track, Whiskey Woman, I think could be a Southern track. Absolutely yeehaw. Jukebox Cowboy is along for the ride as well. So, I think the first one's a Southern rock track, great opener, really like it. Other highlights for me, Wrong Side of the River. Again, this definitely sounds like the Eagles to me. Waterloo is quite folky. Lay Down, very gospely, bit Stonesy, I guess, but very southern rock in my mind, very powerful vocals. But my favourite track is actually the closer, Home Where I Want to Be, which I actually think sort of, if you're going to listen to one song from the album, listen to that song, because I think it sums up the rest of the album, both in musical style and direction. And I think it's a great song. I think it's the sort of song that the likes of Motley Crue or Cinderella would have given their right arms to have written and recorded. It's not quite a power ballad, but it's definitely a sort of a mid-tempo sort of ballad, really, a mid-tempo going on ballad, but with country bluesy rock in there. So I like this album. I'll save my score for a bit later, but yeah, it's definitely a thumbs up for me. As a third album, having been not that impressed with the first two.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Nick, what's your thoughts on this one?
I may differ a little bit with Parrish, and we may agree on a couple of things. I think this album is the least of the Ian Hunter, Mott the Hoople albums. I'll give you my rating at first. It's a 7 by the skin of its neck, but a Mott the Hoople 7 for most bands might be a 9. So I would agree that the sound is a departure from what we heard on the first two albums and what we would hear later. I didn't pick up on the Eagles, but that's maybe an apt thing. But for me, you have the kind of neutering of the electric guitar in a lot of songs, as well as the organ, the bashing organ of Vernon Allen. So what you find in its place is like the acoustic guitars are sort of pushed up in the mix, which is interesting. The other thing about this album, and it's one of the reasons why I rated it a 7, is Mick Ralphs has about 4 tracks, I believe, that he sings on this album compared to Ian Hunter. And I don't believe that Mick Ralphs can carry an album. He's got an interesting voice. It's a high voice. I just don't think that he's I think Ian Hunter's the guy. And if Mick Ralphs is going to sing a song or two, that's great. But 4 songs for me is a bit much. I found the production was like orderly and tidy. It wasn't, and their performance wasn't raucous like the first 2 albums, and then what we get on Brain Caper. So it was sort of like almost like a conscious effort to sort of make this more in the box and sort of maybe friendly to listeners' ears or radio. I'm not sure what. I think this album is not a good place to start if someone's interested in Mott the Hoople. I think it's a good place to end. But not a good place to start. I agree with Parrish. I think that Whiskey Women is a great opener song. I think for what it's worth, Ralphs does a good job with it. And I enjoy it. Other highlights for me on the album, I also agree Waterloo is a great song. And it's interesting because it's that melancholic Ian Hunter ballad, and he sings largely in a falsetto. So it's not that ragged Ian voice. It's a falsetto, which is different. And that makes it interesting to me too. And it also reminds me, I would describe it as sort of like an English folk song. So it has sort of an interesting quality to me that I haven't heard in other Mott the Hoople songs. So I did like it. Lay Down is a cover song. I thought that was a curious choice. They don't do much with it, but it's okay. The 2, what I described, I thought it was more like California country rock. Again, Eagles-esque, I guess, but the one with Mick Ralphs singing "It Must Be Love," I just found that to be an absurd song, especially the lyrics. I mean, you've got pedal steel, and then all of a sudden, he's got a refrain of "Love, Love, Love," like it was a Wayward Beatles song. So that song did like nothing for me, and I think it's probably one of the worst songs in the Mott the Hoople canon. The Ian Hunter sort of track right after it's the original Mixed Up Kid, and it's also a country-esque song. It's a better song, and it seems more derivative because I think the Stones were fooling around with pedal steel at the time, and the Faces, and then Humble Pie. So it seemed like it was sort of in that pack, if you like that kind of thing, and maybe they were sort of piggybacking on the band. I'm not sure, but it's okay. For me, I also like Parrish's take on "Home Is Where I Want to Be." I like that song. I like the acoustic guitar. There's a big chorus in it. Mick Ralphs does a decent job on the vocal on that one, and it's an improvement over what we had prior to. But for me, the album makes it and gets it to a 7 with the last track, which is "Keep a Knockin'," which for me is 10 minutes of pure raw ass kicking. And it reminds us that this band is a dangerous, powerful band that could really blow the doors off of most bands out there. And they take you on this journey. And even though I usually shy away from songs that are 10 minutes, including live, I just thought that this is just an absolute smoking track, and it takes you through Little Richard and Roy Orbison and Jerry Lee. And Ian misquotes What I Say, says it's Jerry Lee, but Ray Charles, and they rip through it. And at the end of the number, the amps are feeding back and the crowd's going crazy. So for me, the album sort of ends on that high note, and you've got this uneven pacing, or sort of album songs that are a bit downers, but it really finishes for me on that high note, and it reminds everybody what this band is capable of and what they can do. And 10 minutes, it held my attention. There's no 10-minute drum solo or guitar noodling or meandering. It's all interesting rhythm playing and fun with the crowd, and I absolutely loved it. So for me,
I forgot to mention the last track because because it's a live medley, and I was just focusing in on but it is a good track at the end. I do like that.
And as a rhythm section, I know Parrish, your way around a drum kit, but man, Buffin and Overend Watts, they're just like a locomotive on that song. I absolutely love it. If you want to learn about rock and roll and what rock and roll is all about, go to that song. That's a great number. So that's my take on that album.
Because I'll be talking about the drums in the next one as well.
Good.
I think it's a big part of that one.
Good.
Well, all right, gentlemen. Hot dog. Yeah, I hear Keep a Knockin', but I guess that was like one of the sole remnants from their planned live album. Does anybody know what the story is with that? Because they didn't put it out, but that's what it was for.
Well, this is well before the live album that they actually released.
Right, but I think they evidently, based on my research, they had something planned, but they didn't. I don't know. I don't know. But it doesn't fit the record. I think it's great. They must have not had enough tracks.
That was the case.
Well, that's clear. That's clear.
That's clear. But a 10-minute live track tagged onto the album, they were really missing a lot of songwriting here. But as far as this album goes, I think obviously Mott the Hoople is still trying to find themselves. They're trying to find that niche. Now, when I listen to this, everybody Parrish, you gentlemen mentioned the Eagles. I didn't think Eagles, but I thought Flying Burrito Brothers, and I thought Sweetheart of the Rodeo by the Byrds. That would be the only thing that would have predated this by this time, because I think Eagles is 72. I don't know, maybe Poco would fit in there. But yeah, it's just very down home. I don't know, it's very laid back. I mean, there's country on here, ladies and gentlemen. What did I write? Whiskey Woman, I think, is a great opener. It's got that country rock vibe, but it rocks out a bit. It's very catchy. I totally see that they should have opened with that. Wrong Side of the River, country influences. I really like this track. I hear this could be a Neil Young song.
Neil Young, yes, thank you. Yes.
That's what it sounds like. Sounds like Neil Young.
Even he's singing his phrases just like Neil Young.
100%. So it seems like here they're trying to find themselves, and they take a lot of different influences. Lay Down, I think's fantastic. It's an anthemic rocker. Ian Hunter sounds great. You've got choir vocals on it. I mean, I really like this record. I like the production of it. It's very upfront. I think Andy Johns is the engineer, and normally I like all of his work. He was a great engineer, let's be honest. It Must Be Love, full tilt country on here, and what I hear on here is Sweetheart of the Rodeo. Definitely Sweetheart of the Rodeo. And then I wrote Keep a Knockin'. I think it's great. It's raw energy. It rocks hard, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe that means they ended this record because they're going to show off what they're going to have next. I don't know. But I kind of like this record, even though it's kind of mellow. It's an outlier in the catalog, but I don't have a problem with it.
If you look at the length of the songs, none of the songs are particularly long. And on side 2, no. if you don't look at the last song for a moment, it's less than 9. It's about 9 minutes, so it clearly was added as filler because they needed to beef it up to about 20 minutes on side 2.
Well, I mean, we must well. Hang on, let me get my other thing up. I'm not a professional, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So, Parrish, what would you rate this out of 10?
I'd give it an 8. So
An 8.
I like it a bit more than Nick. I still think there's better albums to come. I've always liked it, actually. So I think I said last time, my starting point was with All the Young Dudes and then going backwards. And I've always liked it. And I remember my elder brother was big on the early Eagles. And by the time I discovered this, I would have known the Eagles. And I think maybe that's why I kind of make that connection, because it reminded me of the Eagles back then, as well as now. So,
yes, Bebop's on Wildlife, I think.
Mm.
All right, so you're going to give it an 8. What did you say, Nick? Did you get?
I gave it a 7, and this album reminds me of, like, if I listen to each track individually, they're fine, okay. When I listen to it in total, that's where I sort of like, I just don't think it's the strongest thing. Maybe that's my problem with it. But again, a 7 for Mott the Hoople is like a 9 for most other people. So, I'm not saying to avoid it. I just think that if you're going to get into this band, there's a better places to start. And this is sort of maybe a deeper album for, like, the person who wants to become a super fan.
Or if you like
totally
southern rock and country rock, if you like that kind of style, then I think this is a good album.
Yeah, I don't think the Hoople has arrived yet, but I like this record. It's not really an album. I agree with Nick. It's more of a collection of songs, but it's fine. But throwing the rock and roll track at the end really kind of screws it up. So I can't really look at it as a serious album. It's not an album, so to speak, but okay, I get it. But I like it, and I think I'd be happy giving it a 7. It could be an 8, but man, even though I like the rock and roll song, I don't have a problem with it. Keep a Knockin's fine, but it just doesn't fit the rest of the record. All right, everybody. If you know this record, I'm throwing it out to everybody we got 32 people watching. Anybody here familiar with this record, and give me your rating out of 10? Because all we're trying to do, ladies and gentlemen, is turn people onto this or not. If you know this record, go ahead. I can take your score, and if you want to go ahead and give it to me. Maybe people don't know it. Nathan's going with a 9. All right. Nathan, look at you. John the Music Nut. We got a 7.
Hey, John. All right. John.
Harv likes, I like the album cover. Exit Music's going to 7. 7 seems to be popular. Weird Debbie. She's going with the 7.5. All right.
Hey, Grant. Well, people are chiming in. Jamie was a great salesman last time, and he talked about this box set, the Mott the Hoople Mental Train.
Yeah, let me blow that up. Show that to everybody. Yes.
It is fantastic. Oh, what a great compendium of all these original 4 albums, and then some rare tracks and that sort of thing, live stuff. As a matter of fact, we were talking about, I think, the first show about the whole business of them covering and doing as an instrumental. You Really Got Me. Well, they had You Really Got Me with a vocal on here. So
I think he might have mentioned that. No. Okay. That's right, because the track didn't have a vocal, but there really is a vocal.
There is a vocal. So there's so much to dive into. So if someone's really looking to hit it out of the park with the first 4 albums, it's really good. And I found it online fast. It wasn't expensive. It was great. It's really good.
Yeah. Chris, there you go. Hopefully we can turn you on to it. I know you can't rate it, but check back in, listen to it, and let us know what you think. Steven says, a lot of Mott the Hoople songs are part of Ian Hunter's discography. I have most of Ian's discography. Awesome. So anyway, I think we're done. Let's calculate, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we come up with a 7.4. I think that's fair. I think that's decent. I think that's fine. Yeah. Excellent. All right, let's keep moving on. So we're still in 1971, everybody. But we've totally changed. We went back to Guy Stevens to be the engineer. I can't remember who engineered this record. Oh, can't find it. Where is it? Okay. Well, anyway, this came out November of 71. This did not chart in the UK or in the United States. Recorded August to September 71 at Island Studios with Guy Stevens returning as producer. And I don't know who was
Andy
the
Johns.
engineer. Was it Andy Johns is back?
Yes,
Okay,
again.
good. Because it does have a similar tonality. It's not quite as open as Wildlife, but this is a different record.
Right.
All right, let's throw it over to the Parish of Rock. Parish, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised this one didn't chart in the UK, because anybody who bought the previous album when they came over to this one was in for a bit of a shock, I think.
That probably could be it, yeah.
So I would say this is kind of now what you'd expect from Mott the Hoople. It's part hard rock, it's part glam rock in its tone, it's definitely part punk rock. And if we ever get round to the history of punk rock on the Contrarians, then I suspect this should be right in there as one of those early proto-punk rock albums, in my view. So it's definitely got the guitars turned up to 11, quite fuzzy sort of feedback type of sound, and it kicks off with a strange-sounding song, "Death May Be Your Santa." And I'm not one for lyrics. I don't actually know what he sings in it or what he means. But I think it's a brilliant song. It's a great opener. As I say, everything's turned up to 11 on this. And his vocals, I mean, we talk about his vocals being punky, and I said previously you can hear elements of Johnny Rotten in his vocals. But on this track, he actually reminds me a bit of Bob Geldof of the Boomtown Rats, or rather Bob Geldof, I think maybe was a Mott the Hoople fan, and some of his styling was based on Ian Hunter's. So I think it kicks off really good. You've then got Your Own Backyard, which is a bit Stonesy when it starts, but then definitely becomes very Mott the Hoople in its sound. And then they start singing about other bands, and they obviously had a crystal ball there. So they sing about Justin Hawkins with Darkness, Darkness, which is the next track. Which I think is actually a really good song, thunders along nicely. And I think on this album, the drumming is a highlight. I absolutely love the drumming. And on Darkness, Darkness, the crescendo, which happens a few times when the vocals build up, I think are brilliant. He then talks about another rock band in Journey. So he's got his crystal ball out again, and he's talking about Journey now. And this is a 9-minute epic. So on the last album, they filled it up by sticking that medley at the end. On this album, they filled it out by stretching the song out. But unlike what most bands were doing at the time, if they were doing 9-minute epics, I don't think it's particularly proggy. If it reminds me of anybody, I think it's quite Leonard Skinner, actually, in its sound. It's got that southern rock again to me. The lyrics are pretty dark, and then the guitar solo to the end, towards the end, I think is to die for. I think it's fantastic. Then Sweet Angeline, they go heavy metal. Now, in this case, I don't mean heavy metal as in the music. I mean heavy metal as in the Heavy Metal Kids, which, if you don't know the band, go off and search them out, because they are quite Mott the Hoople-like. And this song sounds exactly like the Heavy Metal Kids. So I like them, and I like this. It's also got a bit of a Faces sound on it, I think, as well, which I like. Second Love has got a great piano. It's driven by a great piano, very emotional. Moon Upstairs is another fantastic rocker with the guitars sort of turned up, a sort of a choppy riff on it, which I really like, punky again. But on this one and the outro, I think they start to sound a bit Who-like. They almost become quite chaotic, and everybody seems to be playing at a slightly different tempo on the two songs, in my mind. And then the last track, Wheel of the Quivering Meat Conception, which just rolls off the tongue really nicely, I think. It sounds like it's the end of a gig, really. It finishes as if they're coming to the end of a concert. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if that had been played live or was being recorded live. So I absolutely love this album. Is it my favourite? maybe not quite, but it's certainly up there as one of my favourites. Love this album. Hate the album cover. Don't get the name of the album cover. I have no idea who the Brain Caper Kids are particularly, or what that was all about. But I think the album's fantastic, and I think this is the dawning of punk, and right in there with the dawning of heavy metal. So
awesome, cool. All right, wow. Well, there you go. Thanks, Parrish. Let's throw it over to Nick. Nick, what's your thoughts?
All right, I'll start with my score, and then we'll talk about it. I rate this album at 8.5, and it's a strong 8.5. This was the first of the early albums that I discovered, like in the early 90s. And boy, this was a hard album to find. I mean, it was never anywhere. For the vinyl people out there, if you can find it, it's a tough one to find without ring wear. So if you can get one like this, it's really clean. You want to clutch it tenderly, especially if you get it for $12 like I did. But most of them
So is that an original pressing? Of course it is.
Yeah. And then this one has like, this is my first one. It has like the ring wear on it. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, so I'm not as hard on the cover as Parrish, only because I found it to be an odd and unique thing, and you certainly know it when you see it that's Mott. But I love that Guy Stevens is back, Andy Johns. You've got guitars back. You've got the pounding great organ is back now too, up in the mix. It's a more bombastic album overall. They get back to rocking. That's why I like it. It's 8 tracks. Last song, as Parrish mentioned, is kind of a mashup to me. It's like at the end of Kiss's Destroyer. It's sort of like all this shit flowing together. So it's really only 7 tracks. So if I was gonna, so maybe as a deduction, I would say that it's still sort of like lacking a track or two. But opener, Death May Be Your Santa Claus, phenomenal. Full Throttle, excellent. Your Own Backyard is probably my least favorite on the album. I just found it to be sort of fair to middling. Ian singing about drugs. It's just an odd song for me when I think about the things he's written. But Darkness, I didn't realize it was a cover until recently. And I didn't realize that Jesse Colin Young wrote it and the Youngbloods did it. But I'll tell you what, Mott's version is phenomenal. It's been covered by 1 million people. If people like using the algorithm, you could go on there and under Nick Esquire, I did a Darkness compendium with all the versions I could find, and there's a ton. Ann Wilson did it. Robert Plant does a good version. Richie Havens, the Screaming Trees. All sorts of people have done this, but I'll tell you what, Mott's version is really good. It's one of the better versions out there. So I absolutely love the song. I think that it's an inspired track, albeit a cover, and I love the jungle drums that make it different than other versions, which are usually more introspective. And I think that Ralphs does a good job, and there's a cool riff at the end. The Journey, 9 minutes. Usually I don't hang in for 9-minute songs, but I think it's a good one. I don't hear Leonard Skinner, but I hear gospel. That's where I think maybe the connection is. There's a Southern gospel thing, and that's sort of Ian does that once in a while, and I think he's at his best doing it. I think it's one of his best ballads in his canon. It's a great song. I want to say I heard it live. I know I've heard the song live, but I want to say I heard him play it live. But if I didn't, it's still a wonderful track. The piano, everything. Angeline, Parrish said it's a great, just ripping rock song. Second Love. It's an interesting song because all of a sudden we're treated to like Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. There's almost like mariachi horns come in all of a sudden, which was interesting. Or like Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire. So that sort of came from left field, but I enjoyed it. The Moon Upstairs is one of my favorite riffs by Mott. I just think that song rips. There's a heavy organ solo in it. The lyrics are like punk-like, we're talking about this as a precursor to punk. It's loud. I just think it's a great track. So the last song, of course, is that mashup. It's fine, but the whole album for me, from start to finish, it's an even album. I enjoy it, even the 9-minute song, and that's why I give it an 8.5. I think if there's another ripping track, I'd probably rate it higher, but. It's probably my favorite of the first 4 albums. It's at least the one that I have the most time with, but it's a good one.
Yeah, 100%. All right, cool. Well, how do I look at this record? I think that this record seems like more of a It seems it flows well. The production is good. I mean, Andy Johns, I still like what it's a little not quite as open as the previous record, but still the production fits the songs, I think. Opens up with Death May Be Your Santa Claus. I just have to laugh, but it's heavy. You've got overdriven organ on here. You've got overdriven guitars. They're trying to make a statement on here. Hey, we've departed from the last record. Wow, what a way to open up the album. And then the second track, Darkness, Darkness, is a cover by the Youngbloods off of the, is it 1967? Is it 16? I can't remember. It's on Elephant Mountain. I haven't done anything on that album, Elephant Mountain, or maybe even looked at the Youngbloods on the channel, but Elephant Mountain was produced by Charlie Daniels. That Charlie Daniels band. But I'm going on a tangent, but please do yourself a favor. Yeah. It is the best Youngbloods album. It is a 10 out of 10 record. The production's great. The songs are great. Do yourself a favor. It's an audiophile classic. It sounds wonderful. Mobile Fidelity put out a CD of it once. Stunning. Even the one-way issue of it sounds great. I think it's just a clone off the Mobile Fidelity, but I'm not sure. Anyway, there you go. A Darkness. You got to have it. The Journey, a lengthy jam-like track. We've all talked about it already. Powerful. It's epic. Great production. Guitars kind of have an eerie tone to them, which I enjoy. The organ, I'm going to say the organ shimmers, damn it. The organ's great. It sounds like the band, we were pretty laid back on the other record, but now we seem very vibrant. We seem very alive on this record. Sweet Angeline, it's Dylan-esque. Ian Hunter loves that stuff. I still think he's playing this in his set. Someone was mentioning that I think he plays a lot of this stuff. The Moon Upstairs, I think this is one of their most powerful tracks, I think. Very new wave, fuzz tone. This is the one it really it seems very punky to me.
Yeah, very.
But I love the guitar tone on it because it's just kind of gnarly and it just kind of gets you. And then we talked about the Wheel of Quivering Meat Conception. just kind of say that real fast, ladies and gentlemen. I like this. I like the album that came before, but this is a total different animal. I think we're starting to get closer to what Mott really have become. I would give this, I gave the other record, what did I give the other record? 7. I give this, God, this is really a good record. And I feel so bad because it never really sold. I don't know if it ever went gold at any time. I have no idea. I give this an 8.5. I think it's great. Parrish, what would you give this record?
Well, I'll give it a second. I mean, a couple of other things I think.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I said that he seemed to have a crystal ball and with some of the song titles. Apparently, it was also initially going to be called AC/DC, the album.
Oh, wow.
So
really?
So there could have been yet another connection. And something I found when I was reading up on the album this morning, apparently they set fire to the studio and burnt down the studio that they were recording in when they did this. Which delayed the album coming out a bit. I can't think why that would delay the album coming out, but apparently it did. Yeah, just a few other facts that you come across when you do some research. I'm going to give this 8.5 as well. I mean, I'm tempted to give it 9. But the problem is, where do you go? If you start giving some of these albums 9s, you start to limit yourself on what you can give next.
Right.
And it's, as I said earlier, it's still not quite at my favourite yet. So I'm going to give this. I think I'll give this an 8.5 as well.
All right, looking good, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so if you haven't given me your score, everybody in the Peanut Gallery, I've already got everybody's score who's given me one. If you know this record, I want your score out of 10. So, like I said, we're trying to turn people onto it. Okay, Ash is coming in hot and heavy. He's giving this an 8. Nathan, 8.5. Go ahead.
While those scores come in, Parrish, you were going to mention something about the drums.
Oh, yeah. I did on a couple of tracks. I just think the drumming on this is really good.
Yeah.
And I think, it's the guitar is really sort of, as I said earlier, sort of turned up to 11. But I think
Yeah.
one of the reasons it sounds quite punky is because the drums sound quite punky. They're very
Yeah.
energetic. I mean, almost, yeah. I mean, Clem Burke is an example from, rest in peace, from Blondie, had a similar style. It's just got that kind of driving rhythm.
Propelling,
which which kind of propels, to use your phrase, propels a lot of the songs along. And I just think it's great. And some of the drum fills are really good as well, just at the right moment. Sometimes you hear drum fills and you wonder why, but not this one. It really adds. So, I think
he's an underrated drummer. I think Buffo is a really good drummer. I enjoyed his stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you go. All right, I think I've got everybody that's given a score. All right, Webb, I got yours. I got everybody else's. Let's see what we've got. We have an 8.6. Oh, Harv's coming in. Hold on, Harv. I'll put yours in there too. We want to be accurate, ladies and gentlemen. So we have an 8.6. I'm good with that. Gentlemen, you good with that?
Absolutely.
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
Sounds good to me. Solid drummer coming from a drummer. Yeah, Webb knows. I know a little Mott the Hoople, but I don't know either one of these albums. That's all right, Kyle. We're all here to learn. T-Rex Banger gone. All right, fantastic drummer, Weird Debbie. All right, cool. Anybody else have anything to add? What are the next two albums? I didn't write.
The dudes, and a Mott.
All right. Wow. Jeez. All right. I think I'm looking forward to that. This is a great album to start with.
Yeah,
Kyle.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's a good record. So there you go. All the young dudes and Mott up next. We will be back. Well, we took like 2 months off, I think. I don't know why. Something happened. Didn't we have to reschedule or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think you had to reschedule from. I was on holiday, wasn't I?
Oh, you were on holiday. That's right. Webb says the next two are classics. Well, we are going to look at them. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming on tonight and keeping it interactive. If you, I totally agree, and I think you could start out with this record, no problem. I like Wildlife. It's an outlier, but I still like it. So, I wouldn't start there, but you could start with Brain Capers. I'm 100%. So, yeah, Jukebox Cowboy, thanks for coming on. That's all right, Webb. I'm used to you and Ernesto. I'm used to you both being late. Thanks, Johnny Music Nut. Webb, 7.5. Okay. Well, you're fitting right in there with everybody else. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please leave a like. Hit those notification bells. We have a lot of crap. I want to think it's crap, but there's a lot going on in the warehouse. A lot going on the low blow Webb. Webb, I was just joking. You know that. But you got to be prompt. Come on, man. That's all right. Anyway, Digon, I'm just glad to see you. That's okay, Digon. I'm glad you're back. We haven't seen Digon in a while. Anyway, thanks, everybody. We will wrap this dog up. Check out both of these records. Report back in if you don't know them. And we'll see the Parish and Nick later. I'll try to get young Jamie Laszlo on the next show, but he, like I said, he had a family emergency.
Sure.
So we'll see everybody. Gentlemen, have a good night and have a good weekend.
Thanks.
You.
All right.
Cheers.
Take care.